This is 5.7 Sustainable Forestry. So by the end of this lesson, you should be able to describe methods for mitigating human impact on forests. To do this, we're going to describe some sustainable forestry practices such as reforestation, forest management, and prescribed burns. First, we're going to talk about what is forestry and what is sustainable forestry. Sustainable forestry is using trees for lumber that minimizes damage to ecosystems. So this would be things that minimize habitat destruction, minimize soil erosion, and there's several ways you can do this. So we see the different parts of sustainable forestry: reforestation, planting trees, maintaining biodiversity with prescribed fires. But first we're going to look at selective cutting or strip cutting, and this is the sustainable alternative to clear cutting. So selective cutting or strip cutting is when you cut only some of the trees in an area, it's usually the biggest and the oldest, to preserve the habitat. So you maintain trees for the wildlife that lives there, and it also preserves the topsoil. So you're not exposing all of that topsoil to a bare area where it has the chance to become drier and erode away or blow away. What's great about selective cutting or strip cutting, and that's the two here below, is that it maximizes the long-term productivity of the land. So it's maintaining soil health. There's this good soil conservation. You're not wiping out the whole forest, and it also preserves the forest for future generations. So here's another view of clear cutting, and what happens, you can see the water quality is different when you do clear cutting versus selective or strip cutting. And when we just clear cut the entire mountainside here, your stream becomes very muddy because all that soil is eroding away. Having some trees to maintain the root structure and the soil structure keeps the stream clear. It also provides some cover to intercept the precipitation falling on the land. Another sustainable forestry method is using humans and pack animal labor rather than using machinery. So at the top you see the classic way we harvest logs. We could also use animals, which doesn't compact the soil from using machinery. There are other methods that are sustainable where we can use more sustainable forest products. So we go back here. We could use recycled wood or reuse the wood without recycling it. So this would be taking down a wooden fence and reusing that wood for something else. We can chip wood and use that as mulch around our flowers and plants and trees. The process of reforestation is replanting trees in an area that has previously been deforested. And we can also use sustainable forestry to improve forest health. So you can selectively remove trees that have been diseased to prevent them from spreading the infection to the entire forest. This therefore removes the host for the disease and decreases density. So we know that disease is a density dependent factor. So having fewer trees of the same species close together means that disease is not going to spread as fast. Another method of sustainable forestry is prescribed burns. And this is where you have small controlled fires to burn the dead biomass. So that's trees which have fallen over. This is grasses which have died and need to be recycled. It uses up the dead biomass, which is a fuel, to prevent larger forest fires later on. What's important about this is it puts those nutrients back into the nutrient cycles. So those nutrients locked up in the dead biomass are burned and returned to the soil, returned to the plants, and returned to the atmosphere to continue our biogeochemical cycles. What we currently do is we suppress fires. So a common problem, particularly in the West, is when a fire pops up, we come in and we put it out, and this causes even more biomass to build up. So our goal was to describe methods for mitigating the human impact on the forests. So some of these methods that we discussed today were reforestation, so replanting trees, using and buying wood harvested by sustainable forestry techniques. So that would be looking for wood that's been from strip cutting rather than clear cutting, and then taking the wood we already have and reusing it. Additionally, we can use integrated pest management that we've discussed before to remove affected trees. So that's one of our biological controls. And we've also talked today about prescribed burns, which is purposely setting fires in forests in order to get rid of that biomass rather than putting out naturally occurring fires, which then lead to mega fires later on.